What's up, everyone? It's Eric Vessels with Taktiful. Welcome back to another episode of Taktiful Tuesdays. I'm really pleased to have my good friend here, Frank Mallozzi, who is the president of Konica Minolta IPP, Industrial Print and Production Group. Frank, really pleased to have you, my man.
Eric, it's so nice to chat with you. It's been a while, and excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So maybe first off, what is IPP, Industrial Print and Production Group?
Really, it's really exciting. So IPP, it's the Industrial Print and Production Group and Focus inside of Konica Minolta. I've been about 8 months now on board, and the CEO, Sam Errigo, gave me a call when I was sort of out there exploring my my retirement, and he said, "I've known you a long time, and it'd be great to catch up and share with you what we're doing." And what was interesting, very much to my surprise, when I jumped on board and I had the conversation and looked at their portfolio, I could not believe the addressable markets and the success that they've built over the years. So what they've done is they've got some segments that they're going after. I've got 3 key segments: inkjet in the B2 space, and what's happening there. There's still, we talk about this all the time. There's still that shift from analog to digital, and Konica Minolta plays a really nice part in that transition, and the technology is off the charts. So we were in that inkjet space. Electrophotographic label. We've got an incredible share at the low, and now we've got some sort of mid and high end. And then the last is the most exciting, because it's I kind of look at that as a constant development, is the embellishment business.
Yeah, and that's our jam, right?
That is the crown jewel, and to Konica Minolta's credit, they've been involved for quite a while, but really way ahead of its time. So, we'll probably get into it, but what's interesting now is we believe that the market has sort of caught up with it. And so I'm running that part of the business, and the goal is to take the success that they had, like any startup, right? You get into an innovation stage, you build the business, and then you move it into a growth mode. And so I'm here to take it to the next level.
Well, I mean, listen, like I was going to mention, a lot of people will know you from your 25 years at EFI. You finished up there before kind of your retirement, which I think everybody kind of sensed that you maybe weren't going to retire forever. It's like a NFL quarterback situation. You're just like, we might see that guy again. I'm not really sure, right? But I mean, your last position was Chief Revenue Officer, so you're very familiar with growing revenue and being in that growth stage. But I was going to ask you, and you've already kind of set me up really well for it. And the NFL quarterback is not a really bad analogy, right? Because you sort of, you retired and then you got the call, right? And we see that happen all the time. What was it that sort of made you want to come back in this scenario? Because just like NFL quarterbacks that retire, it's got to be the right situation to kind of coax them back into the game.
It's an interesting question. I put a lot of thought behind it because, after 25 years, and I've been doing this for a long time, you think about that transition because, my life, our lives have wrapped around our work, our purpose. And I'm a very traditional person. As a father, provider, it was like focus on the work. And I didn't spend much time on anything else. And all of a sudden you start I kind of look at myself saying, well, I'm on the 15th hole. So I'm on the back 9 of my career. And all of a sudden I got to think about when I finish 18, what do I do?
Right.
So I put all this thought process in place. Maybe I rushed it. I went ahead and did what I needed to do. I went out and retired, and I said, I'll do some consulting. So I opened up my company and picked up a couple of jobs, one in particular with another Japanese company, and loved it, did great. But then what happened was 8 months into the role, I was advising, but I didn't own the execution. I did not own the team. And so I had that fire in my belly still. And I said, why am I going to fight this? Funny enough, as I started to rationalize and see all that, I got the phone call. And so I got caught into a vulnerable state And sure enough, I put myself into this role, which I do not regret at all. Now I've got a team, I own it,
Yeah.
and I've got some challenges ahead of me. So from that standpoint, I kind of figured it out and thought about it. And, you go through the whole process, Eric. Maybe do some philanthropy, sit on a couple of boards, which I did. But but you go at full speed. You're in overdrive for 25 years, and then all of a sudden you pull back and you're in first gear, and it just doesn't work. So what I'm learning to do is to have that soft landing, and this is a perfect place to be in my stage of my career. Really, really, really like it.
Well, it's interesting because there's a lot of parallels in kind of what I'm doing, right? Because I mean, I ran what they think for 23 years, and
Right.
then all of a sudden I'm not, and I announced to the world like I'm going to take a big sabbatical. I'm going to walk across the U.S. and I'm going to but the same itch is just like, damn it. No, I really want to. I want to. If you've got that entrepreneurial itch and there's an entrepreneurial itch even inside of a business person that can operate inside of a larger organization, right? It's that itch to build. It's that itch to grow. It's that itch to have the team and manage it. And I think I identify so much with that because I've been telling everybody, they're like, how is it at Tactful? I'm like, it's like 2008, what they think, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's in that same stage of like, there's so much opportunity and to have the opportunity to build something, if you have that mindset, it's just never going to leave you. So, it was funny. A group of us that like know you well, like heard about it and we were just like, yeah, obviously. Like, it makes perfect sense. So give us an update a little bit. So for folks that aren't as familiar with like the KM portfolio and the MGI stuff, give us kind of an update on kind of where you guys are at, what you're looking to do, like going into, you're creeping up on like first year here. Like what is that vision and what is that team looking like and where do you hope to take it and be in the marketplace relative to all of those segments that you talked about?
Absolutely. So, we've got three distinct segments we play into. As I mentioned earlier, we've got the B2 space in document printing and some really cool killer applications, and our platform is absolutely amazing. And this is public news, but we showed an extension of that platform at Drupa. So we're going to really widen the offerings we have in the market. Second is, of course, the label space. We've done really well. We've got a number one share in that low electrophotographic segment of the market, where you look at commercial printers, manufacturers, folks that outsource their work, and think about maybe, well, if I bring this in house, first of all, how difficult would it be to bring it in house and run it, and can I get a payback? And it answered all the questions. And so we had so much success in that segment, we decided to bring another product out at sort of a more high end. And it's got some nice functionality, white. So talk about embellishments, gives us more. So we've got some great technology we call our one-hit white. The white is incredibly opaque and the quality is amazing. And when you look at these electrophotographic devices, they're easy. We design them to be very easy, so you don't have to go in and build out a whole department. So we're hitting that niche really, really well. And then the last piece is the embellishment piece. And what's funny? I followed over the years MGI and of course Konica Minolta and sitting on the sidelines with EFI, because Konica Minolta was been a partner for ours for many, many years.
Sure.
We were involved. The thing I love about my position and why I'm so fortunate in my career, I spent so many years at EFI, but we built technology components, services for all the manufacturers out there. So I had an ability to go in and look at the inner workings of many of these companies and help them take some of their solutions to market. And then on top of that, the thing I felt unfortunate about is when I started with EFI 26, 27 years ago now, we were an OEM company. So we provided technology to the manufacturers. They wrapped up the solution and they took it to market.
Right.
But what we did over the years is we said, okay, we want to kind of take some ownership of some of these businesses. So we decided to do a roll up. We bought, at the time under my time there, was 45 companies, and we bought companies to give us some geographic coverage. So we went outside the United States. We opened up China, India, Latin America, Brazil, and started to go in and build this business from scratch. So I was very fortunate not only to go in and be part of acquiring all these companies, but integrating them. And then I would say we had to, over the 25 years, re-engineer our company at least a half a dozen times. So we're always busy building, and building these new addressable markets. So I remember back in the early to mid 2000s, the CEO Guy Gecht and I were sitting down and talking about when we bought Viewtech and we bought some of these companies. We said, this is great. It's a complement to our portfolio with cut sheet manufacturers, but we got to call it something. And we came up and said, let's call it industrial print. And lo and behold, in our space, it became sort of a household name. And then we built this portfolio as such. Yeah. So seeing that, I see a lot of parallels coming here. It's like we've built a great foundation. So now what are the ancillaries? What are those other, air avenues we can take this business? And that's what I'm doing. So going back to the embellishment piece, the thing I find that's most intriguing is I still feel like it's in a business development phase. The market hears about it and they say it makes a lot of sense, but the challenge in the CapEx business, and you know this, you go replace a press out there, or you go put in a digital press that's going to take, obviously, clicks away from their analog business. They've already got a book of business built, so they can justify that expenditure. Tough part about this business is they got to build it.
Right.
And the TCOs and the ROI often becomes challenging. So it's not about price, and it's about that value. How can you compete differently than the guy down the block? So you got to really articulate those applications and really start to bring that sort of business development sort of acumen and know-how out to that customer base.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's a great segue into the topic I want to get into next. And we talk about it all the time, and you hit the nail on the head, right? It can't be about price. It's got to be about value. And a lot of the training that we're doing in sort of our business development role in Taktiful and helping OEMs and helping OEMs customers is the foundation of that is kind of a study that we're doing again with what they think. We did the first one, and what we realized were the gaps and what were the challenges were a lot of them were exactly what you say. They don't know how to sell it. They don't know how to market it. They don't know how to price it. And those are really, really large challenges, because ordinarily in a very mature business, you have all of those things figured out. Right. You're just feeding the beast at one point. So you're spot on. It's in this infancy stage of like, we really don't sort of have our arms around it and understand it. So a lot of what we're trying to do at Taktiful is the education piece, in addition to building actual software tools that are going to make all of it very much easier. But I wanted to just chat with you a little bit about, I know that we've been talking, and I think, I'm not going to spoil it, but I think we're going to be talking more and maybe possibly announcing to the industry, working together more. How do you view working with Taktiful, and how is that? I obviously have an opinion on it, but I don't want to color yours. And how is that going to be beneficial to both KM, MGI, and the industry at large working with us?
It's funny, it's speaking to Kevin and listening to his podcast, having these conversations with you all and reading a lot about it. It's always like, I love the challenge because first, before you try to do anything, it's traditional marketing, right? You got to identify like the problem. What's the problem you're looking to solve? And I peel the onion and I'm saying, why isn't this business growing, faster than what it is? And I think when you start to hear about the value, business development, getting more out of the jobs you have today, rather than just saying, hey, this is just going to be a volume play.
Yeah.
It's not, and how do you differentiate yourself out there? I think when I hear and see, and then the conversations took place, it's like you get that aha moment saying, this partner is spot on, or what you're saying is spot on, and I need to partner. The need that we have that's going to complement our embellishment portfolio and the services that we have wrapped around it, I believe the partnership or our cooperation with one another is going to be dead on. And you know who's going to benefit from this? It's the customer base out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that between the two of us, you know what's amazing? I look at my organization and I'm pretty well entrenched with. I got a lot of peers in the industry. You know, we catch up and so on. But we have one of the largest commercial footprint, the infrastructure to support customers in the industrial print space. Because I look at industrial print as a separate segment, and that tied to Konica Minolta's technology, because a lot of what we do, we have in our core portfolio. And
Right.
when you look at that penetration in the marketplace, it's second to none. So you take that with some of the business development and the know-how that Taktiful is going to bring to market. I am just so excited to get this thing executed.
Man, I am too. And the exciting part for me is, and it's that nervous excitement. And I know you'll be familiar with this, because it's like you reach these points in business when you're like, you ever got that big account and then sat back and went, shit, we got that big account, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
now you got to do something about it, right? And a lot of what we're talking about is, I'm leading the training division at Tactful. So a lot, like, actually doing those, 8-week boot camps or those master classes for customers or for OEMs. That's the thing that I'm building. That's like my baby. That's what I'm working on. So it's both exciting and kind of terrifying at the same time, because I want to deliver, and obviously Tactful wants to deliver. But I think what I feel great about is, like, and you know me well enough that you know this, like, one of my big things is, like, business is about people. I look to do business with people first, and business is second, right? A close second, right? One of the things that's been great so far in everything that I've been dealing with in KM is, like, the people. There's just such a synergy of, like, man, when we have calls with you guys, no matter who it is, Sean being a really good example recently, it's just like bang, 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 bang. It's like, do we work for the same company? What's going on? Like, why is this flowing so well? And I think that will speak to a lot of success. So we're excited too about the partnership, and hopefully people pay attention. There's going to be, we're going to be talking more about it, and hopefully you'll see some more news on it. Frank, I want to wind up this wonderful third episode ever. This is so great. I've got 3 episodes under my belt. Appreciate you doing this. I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. We've sort of addressed a lot of the business stuff. I want to know a key thing that you've learned in business over the years. Like, what is if you were talking to somebody that was, like, say, that just got their degree, they're just getting out into the business world, what's one key piece of advice you would give them?
It's funny you do that. You say that because I sit on the Cal Poly advisory board, and
Right.
I'm involved with the mentoring program. So I get very much I get excited about educating and at least advising these students, because when you think about it, the scope is so wide. And how do you get them to focus and narrow on something that they enjoy and that they're going to be passionate about? Because when you enjoy and you're passionate about something, you're going to excel. It's just, and what's interesting about my career and what I've learned, I think if I was to take a look at where some of my successes was around execution. You sit around a boardroom and you talk about strategy, and strategy never evolves many times. But when I see an idea and I look at something, I got to drive it. And so you build that plan and get it out to the marketplace, and until you start seeing those successes. The thing I think I've learned over the years in my career, and it's, first of all, it's what I advise those folks out is network. You've got to network. And I'm not trying to be old school here. The world of what we're doing here, virtual, okay, it's great, it's cool, it's efficient, it's cost effective, but you have to have a balance with meeting people and making that impression.
Absolutely.
So for instance, early in your career, I remember, I was a product manager over at Canon, and then I became the youngest director at Ricoh Corporation. And I'm like, wow, this is really big four Japanese company to hire somebody young. And they told me this in the interview. They're just basically, this is many years ago. So I said, I understand that, but you're buying the talent and the know-how. So what I made sure I did is I was the first one in the office and I was the last one to leave. And that impression in terms of lead by example, network, try to add value to the people you're working with, and don't make it about yourself. Make it about, the cooperation and the teamwork that you have.
Man,
That's I think it's and then the second advice I have for kids that are getting out of school, don't try to boil the ocean. Put a 5-year plan together. Here's what I want to do. I want to get into product management because I really want to understand the cradle to grave. And so, okay, I'm going to do this for 5 years. Then what's my next step thereafter? And I'm still using that philosophy today.
I was just gonna say that's not necessarily just for students. That's good advice for me today.
You're gonna be blown away by this, but you're gonna find this. I got to tell you this story. And so when I retired from EFI, I had an executive coach, and they revamped my LinkedIn profile. I'll just go straight to it.
Nice.
I went from my MBA back almost 35 years ago, and then when my daughter was born, we had some complications. I had to leave school, and of course, family, house, mortgage, never got back to school. So when my executive coach heard that, they said, well, I have 16 credits to complete. So I put that on my LinkedIn profile. The school went through, when I posted my new role at Konica Minolta, they wanted me to sit on the advisory board for the new incoming dean. But then they took the liberty of looking at my transcripts and all. They said, well, we revamped the MBA program since you've graduated, and you only have 2 classes to get your MBA.
So go do that.
I did it. I
Yeah.
graduated like 2 weeks. So after 35 years, and the reason for this is I'm thinking about my 5-year plan. Not to say, let me put this in the back of my mind. I think I'd like to maybe go teach at the community college or do something. So you need that kind of degree to do that.
Absolutely.
So the point is that 5-year plan is so important in any transition. Second thing I would probably say, later in my career now, being a lot more mature, sitting in boardrooms and having these discussions, the thing I learned about working at a C-suite was I remember years ago when I first arrived into the executive level, that I would try to go in with predetermined, I would sell my idea, or I would go in and and I learned that you don't do that. You talk about the facts, you talk about your situation, you table it with your peers, and you let, obviously, the group add value with their commentary. And that was a big shift in transition. I wish I would have switched earlier in my career to understand that. But
Sure.
being sort of where I am today in that sort of maturity stage, that's part of giving back. That's part of mentoring. It's part of developing. And so that was pretty much one of the I gotchas in my career, but engaged in it.
Man, that's good stuff. It's almost like and I get what you're saying, because as a type A type person, as a strong leader, at that C-suite level, the tendency is to just come in hard charging. And I think it's so wise for you to mention, like, it's better to actually sort of plant some seeds and then fertilize and water, right? So
Yes.
let that grow up organically, but you're still leading. And you made an important point about leadership that I want to double back on. That is, lead by example. A lot of times I think people get mistaken that leadership has to be, again, that hard charging, telling people what to do. And it's not. It's more about, like, watch what I do, and that I don't even have to tell you, right? That's the leadership thing, is like, that leader's, oh yeah, I see him, he's leading the way. But
And
man,
I would never,
that's
Eric,
good
it's
stuff.
the important part here, I would never delegate something that I wouldn't do myself.
Absolutely. And you have to, and the other part I think that's important too, Frank, there is you've got to demonstrate that you're willing to do it.
Yes.
Right? Like talk is so cheap, right? Like, and I've learned this, over the years. Like, I mean, I did everything from, cleaning bathrooms all the way up at What They Think, right? I mean, like we showed up, so many people would just be like, wait a minute, you're the president of What They Think. Why are you shooting the videos? Like, because it made sense to do it that way.
Absolutely.
It's
And
so,
nothing wrong with that. Absolutely.
yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun. Man, such really, really amazing advice. I tell you, one thing also I want to mention, I'm going to piggyback on your networking thing. This video is an example of the power of networking because we met when you were at EFI and I was at What They Think and formed that relationship. And now you're somewhere different and I'm somewhere different, but we're still doing what we're doing. That speaks to the testament of that relationship with people, not the companies, because the companies are both different now.
Hey, you go back, so important what you said, because one of the philosophies I have is you go back to those playbooks that work.
Mm-hmm.
You may have a different widget, you may be in a different environment, but the synergies in what we know to collectively put something together, you take advantage of that. It's something now, working with you, I've got experience, I've got a track record. Just like, again, Konica Minolta in the embellishment space, now all of a sudden you've got more players in the marketplace. People are starting to realize that, but we've been doing it for years. And I've got a base of customers that are extremely successful. So getting that message, out there in the marketplace, because that playbook has already been, executed.
Absolutely.
I think is key.
And I think that playbook, it's iterative too, right? Like that becomes your core philosophy. But over the years of, 2 or 3 decades, you're constantly sort of monitoring that and sort of changing it because you're going to screw up. Like you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail miserably at times. Learning to kind of create that playbook and that core philosophy is going to serve you over time. But I just thought I would mention, like, networking, like we're showing the example of the power of networking because we're doing this and we've done it in so many different contexts throughout the years in the industry. And that's one of my favorite things about the industry too, is like the people. And it seems like they're always sort of moving around and shifting. And I just, from a personal standpoint, try to never make enemies necessarily, but especially in this industry, because you may be working with that person again.
Exactly. No, totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. You're spot on. Absolutely.
Man. Frank, what a lovely conversation, man. This was so fun. It's hard to believe. I'm looking at the ticker and it's like, how's 28 minutes just gone by?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Thank you so much for being a part of Taktiful Tuesdays, a part of our podcast, and having this conversation. And we, I look forward to working with you more, and we look forward to working with you and Konica Minolta and MGI more. I really appreciate it, my friend.
Looking forward to it. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Great.